Welcome to the Queensland Art Gallery, Gallery of Modern Art Conservation Studios. I'm Samantha Shallard.
And I'm Kim Barrett. We're Works on Paper conservators. Please come into our studio.
It's our pleasure to share both our facilities and also the collaborative nature that we have with ourselves as paper conservators, with the other disciplines within conservation, and also within the actual gallery itself with all the other sections.
We will also share with you some of the techniques we've developed for display of works on paper and share with you some of our recent projects. To give you some context and background, the Queensland Art Gallery, Gallery of Modern Art, often referred to as QAGOMA, is a single institution located across two adjacent buildings in Brisbane's Cultural Precinct. Brisbane, often referred to as the River City, is the capital of the state of Queensland and is Australia's third most populated city. The Queensland Art Gallery, also referred to as QAG, was built in 1982 and is located at one end of the Cultural Precinct forecourt, while the Gallery of Modern Art, referred to as GOMA, opened in 2007 and faces it at the other end. QAGOMA holds a collection of more than 20,000 historical, modern and contemporary artworks from Australia and around the world. It holds an internationally significant collection of contemporary Asian and Pacific art and develops and hosts diverse Australian and international exhibitions. Both the QAG and GOMA buildings have well-equipped conservation studios. The conservation section has a range of specialisations including paintings, works on paper, sculpture, textiles, new media and frames. GOMA Conservation also houses the Centre for Contemporary Art Conservation, a specialist research centre equipped with a range of analytical and investigative tools, including microscopy, infra-red reflectography, FTIR, XRF and X-ray.
The GOMA Conservation Studio is located in the upper level of this 4-storey building. We're privileged to have fabulous views of the Brisbane River. We were involved with the layout of the Conservation Studio when it was being developed in 2005, 2 years prior to the building being open. While the conservation studios have designated areas for the conservation disciplines of works on paper, including mount cutting area, paintings and sculpture, and the Centre of Contemporary Art Conservation. At the onset of its development, we envisaged that the studio could be readily reconfigured, depending on the size of the artwork. We should also mention the GOMA Conservation Collection storage area is located adjacent to conservation. When in access, we can move directly between the two areas via a floor-to-ceiling doors. Intrinsic to the flexible nature of the studio is utilising furniture and equipment which is both mobile and modular. For instance, the conservation work tables are on caster wheels at a uniform height, which allows us to group them together to create a tailored large surface area. This is really handy when you need to unroll very long works. We have also got a dedicated long-spanned framing table in the mount cutting area at the perfect height for standing. Some of our modular equipment includes a mobile sink area. So we also have a microscope mounted onto one of the conservation work tables, which is usually kept in the central area of the paintings area alongside the mobile microscope. Our storage materials have to also be flexible. We have utilised the entrance walls for the rolled storage of universally used materials, while we've used shelves on one of our working tables for conservation materials, as well as cabinets.
So this is our mount cutting area here in our GOMA Conservation Studio. And this is our mount cutter, David Russell. As you can see, we've got a lovely expanse of table space to undertake our mounting and framing over here. And we also have a selection of frames stored here, and we also have frames stored over at our QAG building. We have a range of standard frames that we use here at QAGOMA, and where we can, we try and fit our works on paper and our photographic materials into that range. There are always some that don't look good in that frame ratio, and those ones go into custom frames and are permanently housed in those. We also wanted to share with you some of the recent developments our conservation framing team have been working on. In a recent review of our standard frames, which are constructed in-house, the timbers, finishes and hanging system were evaluated. Out of this review, we are now producing our standard frames from a range of sustainably sourced timbers, purchased from merchants whose supplies are sourced from forests with national and international certification. All of these timbers are finished with clear blonde de wax shellac or a pigmented waterborne coating system to create a matte black or white finish. We've also switched from using D-latches with our standard frames to using an aluminium split batten, with all frames produced fitted out to be hung in either the landscape or portrait orientation. To protect these frames, we've been working on a protective card sleeve, which will be used with the smaller frames while they are stored and also when moving around the gallery spaces. This is the prototype our mount cutter, David Russell, recently developed. We also produce our custom frames in-house, and David has developed a protective slider or cap for these, which not only affords some protection to the large and oversized frames, but also assists with movement of the work in and out of our till storage system.
We wanted to share some of our mounting methods and techniques, and this particular technique was first devised for a series of charcoal drawings that we had. It involves the use of perspex, which actually has a rounded corner. The actual earth magnet is actually recessed into the actual perspex itself so that it's flush with the actual surface. And it fits into a sleeve that actually goes onto the back of the artwork. These magnets then attach to screws that are actually in the wall itself. The other aspect that we also wanted to show you is the way that we actually store our earth magnets. Like other institutions who also use earth magnets, what we have devised is mild steel which actually has carpet on the underneath, and that means that they can easily be stored stacked. We not only have dedicated magnets for individual artworks, but we also have smaller series and sets of magnets that are actually for display. And some of these are coloured. For instance, some of them are actually painted white, as these ones here. And they come in a range of sizes. With a number of the works and exhibitions that we currently have in the pipeline, we envisage that we'll have to have actually quite a few more cabinets of these magnets.
Another interesting development is this mechanism that we call the unroller. Sam and I developed a prototype of this along with our workshop department in 2008 for the installation of a 9.6 metre long chromogenic photograph, Night Revels of Lao Li by Wang Qinsong. What you see here is the third version of this mechanism. This one is an international traveller being shipped with the work to facilitate installation when it was displayed in a New Zealand institution a few years ago. So the advantage of this unroller is that the artwork is held vertically and secure, and so one person holds the artwork so that it doesn't become unfurled and slowly rolls the unroller. This allows it to be fixed to the wall as it is unrolled and mitigates many of the risks associated with holding a rolled artwork for a prolonged period of time. One of the treatments that we're currently working on here in our GOMA Conservation studio is on an artwork that we acquired as part of our APT9 exhibition in 2018. And it's a work by an artist, Aisha Sultana, and it's a graphite on paper, and it consists of a number of squares of folded paper that are adhered down in a pattern to a piece of dye bond. It's a beautiful artwork, and there's a series of works similar to this by the same artist that are amazing to look at. So this particular artwork itself, unfortunately, it arrived to us with a number of corners lifting. You can see one of them here. And at the time, it was a very short turnaround time between when the work arrived and when it was going on display. So a number of running repairs were undertaken to ensure the work could go safely on display. Recently, the work's come out again. It's going to be going on loan, but in its current state, there's 5 areas that are currently lifting. So been looking at the best way to mitigate that and to re-adhere them and to prevent it from happening in the future. So I've just been working through testing a number of adhesives. I've got my little piece of dye bond that I've been using here, and just working through and problem solving what's going to work and what's not going to work. So you can see here there's two pieces that are currently removed from the panel, and I've been looking at the back of those and just removing some of the running repairs that were made on it prior to its previous display, and seeing how much residual adhesive is used. Made the decision not to remove the artist's tape that she's used to attach the works originally, and I've found an adhesive that with my tests seems to work. So the next stage is going through and removing those the running repairs that were previously made and adhering down those lifting areas.
So just to provide you with a brief history of the Asian Pacific Triennial of Contemporary Art, commonly known as APT, this is the Queensland Art Gallery, Gallery of Modern Art's flagship contemporary art series. Since 1993, the APT series has drawn more than 3 million visitors with its unique mix of presenting the most exciting and important contemporary art from the region and offering a cross-cultural insight. The APT takes over QAGOMA every 3 years with an exhibition, film program, children's art centre projects and a dedicated public program of talks and workshops. This enables the gallery to develop expertise and partnerships in the region. The APT has fostered the development of one of the world's most significant collection of contemporary Asian and Pacific art.
I wanted to share with you one of the other projects that we're working on. So this is part of our preparations for our upcoming APT exhibition later this year. This artwork is a great example of the collaborative process between the gallery departments when coming up with solutions for displaying large contemporary works. So the vision for this work is a winged altarpiece that will stand 3 metres tall by 6 metres wide. It's comprised of numerous ink paintings on rice paper panel, and each of those panels sits within an inset frame. So what you can see behind me here is a prototype mock-up of how we're planning to display each of these ink paintings on paper. This prototype was built by a workshop here at GOMA. The design of it was a collaboration between myself, one of our exhibition designers, and the artists. So there was a lot of email talking about how we might display them, how the artists have previously displayed similar works. So essentially the prototype frame is a fixed outer frame, and then it has an inner frame that is held in place by magnets and can essentially just be popped off. It's better with 2 people, but 1 person will work in this instance. So you can see behind that the work is held in place with a series of magnets, and the cover itself is also held in place with magnets with some metal plates corresponding to those positions. So there was a few little tweaks that the prototype allowed us to make that we feel will make the installation process, once the artworks arrive, a lot more streamlined, a lot more straightforward. As part of the collaboration process, the artists have been sending us through some of their in-progress shots of their works. So it's great to be part of that and see the artwork coming together. And it also is informing us of some of the problems we might have to overcome. So we've got an example of one of the pieces that they've been working on, and you can see that there's quite a bit of cockling and undulation along the edges of the paper sheets. So it's good for me to be aware of that in advance and just think about strategies that we could overcome so that those things don't cause an issue when we come to install the piece here. It's been a very interesting process working through and problem solving how we might display these pieces and how it will come together here at GOMA. And I'm really looking forward to the installation, which will be happening in early October. Around the time that you're viewing this, we should be installing this work. So if you're interested, you can have a look on the QAGOMA website, and I'm sure you'll see some images of the work installed. We hope you've enjoyed our tour of the GOMA Conservation Studio and that you've gained some insights into what we do here.
And if there's any questions or queries, just don't hesitate to contact us. The details will be at the end of the video.